Well, it's never too early to get started on thinking about our Christmas treats or our Thanksgiving treats or what I just call our holiday treats, our candies, our cookies, our pies. I want to get started on some candy. I want to share it with y'all. So I thought, might as well get started. If you think about it, we don't have very many more weekends before Thanksgiving. Is there six? 6 weekends before or Christmas? I can't remember now. There's not very many. So I thought, let's get this ball rolling. Let's start doing our candies and our pies and our side dishes and all that. I do have a playlist, several playlists with a lot of my holiday dishes and desserts. But I want to do 3 today and show y'all the 3 different recipes. Y'all might want to add it to your collection of your holiday treats. In my bowl, we have got 1 cup of softened butter. And I've got a 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. Now, you can use salted butter or you can use unsalted butter. It really doesn't matter in this recipe. And I'm just using a great value sweetened condensed milk. Now, I'll tell you something that I have noticed. The different brands of sweetened condensed milk, you see how this one is more of a beige color, a little more caramel color. I have bought different brands that are a little bit whiter. They're whiter than this. It's not as caramel color. Now I'm putting in 4 cups of confectioner's sugar. And I'm going to be mixing this with a hand mixer, but you can by all means do this with your big KitchenAid or whatever you have. I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. And if you wanted to, you could substitute it with maybe almond extract. Or you could do half and half. You could do a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of almond extract. But I have noticed that different sweetened condensed milks, some are just a little more beigey color. Okay, I'm going to mix this up real good. You want it mixed up really smooth. Get all the lumps from your powdered sugar out. I'm going to add 3 cups of sweetened shredded coconut. And you just want to make sure you get all this good and mixed up together. Now I'm going to add 2 cups of chopped pecans, toasted pecans. And we're going to mix this up good. Okay, we got it all mixed up good. I'm just going to go around the edges of my bowl and kind of get it off the sides of the bowl. Now I'm going to fold in my maraschino cherries that I've got chopped up. Now this is optional. You don't have to put the cherries in here. In fact, the very first old recipe for Martha Washington candy didn't have maraschino cherries in it. I think it kind of just evolved into adding that after several years. So just carefully fold this in, because if you do it with a mixture, some of the maraschino cherries could just turn to mush. So I like to fold my end just to keep them from being so mushy, and because we have chopped them up, so they're pretty small. So you just want to blend this up good, and then we'll be done. And we can put this in the refrigerator overnight. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some plastic wrap on it and put it in the refrigerator overnight. And tomorrow I'm going to come back and dip it in my chocolate. Or you need to at least refrigerate it for 2 or 3 hours if you're not going to do it overnight. Just make sure that you get everything mixed up good so that you don't have like clumps of pecans or clumps of cherries, or you just want it all established really good. And this is going to make a lot of candy, y'all. This is a pretty good recipe here. So we got all that done. That's all there is to it. It's just that easy. So I'll be putting this in the freezer or the refrigerator. Or you can put it in the freezer for a couple hours, whichever you want to do. And then we'll come back and we'll dip it in chocolate. Okay, I've made me a little double boiler here. I like to do it this way instead of in the microwave when I'm melting this much chocolate. This is 6 cups of chocolate chips, semi-sweet. That's what I'm using. And I've got 1/4 of a cup of coconut oil. You can use shortening, but I prefer to use coconut oil. And what this is going to do, once it all melts in that chocolate, is going to make it a smooth, shiny chocolate. Now you can do this in the microwave, but when I'm melting this much chocolate, I like to do it over a double boiler. I just think it turns out better, and you don't risk seasoning up your chocolate. Just turn your burner on low and just keep stirring it until it comes to, melts up pretty smooth. Okay, I am back. Now, y'all, I looked and looked and looked for my 1-inch little scoop that I use to make all my candies with, and I cannot find it. So I'm using the smallest cookie scoop, and you really don't even have to do this. You can use like a tablespoon or something like that. But I just want to give you the idea. And it don't even have to be perfectly round. You can just make them as rustic looking, just as long as you kind of round them up a little bit. And I kind of like them being flat on bottom anyways. But if you'd rather them be in balls, you can just put them in your hand, roll them up. This is a pretty good size piece of candy right here, though. These are fun to make, too, around Easter time. Instead of buying Easter candy, making these Martha Washington candies are so good, and they're a really good treat at Easter time. So you don't have to always make candy just, at Christmas or Thanksgiving. In fact, you can make them instead of buying store-bought anytime, just for a treat for the family every once in a while. But we tend to only make homemade candy around the holidays, don't we? Now this is going to make several candies. So you'll have a lot here that you'll be able to put in the freezer and take them out around Thanksgiving and start serving them. But I'm going to continue just to make my little balls. And like I said, you can make them any size you want to. If this size here is too big, make them smaller. In fact, I think I'm going to make some a little bit smaller. Okay, my chocolate is starting to melt. I just come back over here to stir it just a little bit. I've got it on the lowest setting on my burner. You can see how silky and how smooth that it's getting already. So I can turn this off now and just let it stay warm here on the stove till I get ready to start dipping my candy. And let's start dipping our candy now. Now I've got I found my scooper, y'all. This is it. This is my little scooper. It's about a 1-inch. I got it from Walmart a long time ago, and I'm pretty sure it's Pioneer Woman. You see the size of it. But anyways, I got to dig and found it, but too late now. And I've got my little candy dipper here. And I'll put these things down below and put a link down below, my information down below the videos of both of these that I use for making candy. Now I'm using, instead of putting it on parchment paper, I'm using this little grid too. And what that does, it lets that chocolate kind of fall down there instead of puddling up around your candy. And it works really well. Just makes a prettier candy. You can see this is the size of this is a smaller ball. So, like I said, you make your candy the size that you want. If you're very particular and you want them, exactly round, do it this, like I did this one, and roll it in a ball. Or you can make them just willy-nilly and kind of rustic looking and just scoop them with a little cookie scooper or candy scooper or melon baller or just whatever you want to use. It'll all work. Now, the one thing about putting it on this grid, and this is what I use when I'm baking cookies, it's what I throw my bread on after it's been in the oven, it's hot. I'll throw several loaves on here to cool them off. You can't, once I get this done, I will replace them on the cookie sheet with just the parchment paper. If I stuck it in the refrigerator on this grid or in the freezer, when you got them out, your bottom would absolutely be stuck to that grid, so you don't want to do that. This is just to help, keep that chocolate from puddling up around your candy. And it's just optional. You don't do this. You can just put on parchment paper. I do this method here too a lot when I'm making my peanut butter balls and different candies that I'm dipping. And this does take a while because this made a lot of candy.
They were flying for the wine festival.
You can take these, now after I get all these done and placed back on my parchment paper, I'm going to stick them in the refrigerator and just chill them down just a little bit because they're already starting to set up. Let's go over our ingredients. We've got 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter. We got a 1/3 cup of chopped up dried cranberries. I chopped them up in about quarter size each piece. I've got 1/3 cup of chopped up roasted and salted pistachios, 3 tablespoons of heavy cream, a pinch of salt. We need at least 11 ounces of some good white chocolate that we need to melt up. I only had 8 ounces, so I'm going to have to use some of these vanilla wafer that you melt, the white chocolate that you can melt for the other 3 ounces. Okay, I'm melting my chocolate on top of the stove in my double boiler that I've made, and we're just going to heat these just till melted. Okay, we're just going to continue to stir this chocolate to make sure that it's good and smooth and that all the little chocolate bits have melted because it's still pretty warm. You just want to make sure it's not clumpy and then we're going to add our butter to this. So we're going to add all 5 tablespoons of our butter. Then we're going to continue to stir this until your butter is incorporated with that chocolate. And it could take just a little bit for it all to incorporate really good, be mixed up well, and be good and smooth. You just don't want any, of your melted butter to be just kind of laying on top of your chocolate. So just keep stirring. Okay, the chocolate and the butter is pretty much incorporated now. I'm going to put a pinch of salt. And our 3 tablespoons of heavy cream. A good teaspoon of vanilla. Or you could use almond extract if you want to. And then we're going to add our cranberries and our pistachios. You can buy the pistachios over there where the peanuts and stuff are, or even over in the baking section at Walmart. You can find the roasted, salted pistachios. So you want to stir this up really good. Get it all incorporated. And I'm going to end up pouring this in a more oblong, shallow dish to let it cool down because we will be making truffles. I'll be using my little, it's not a melon baller, but it's a little candy scoop that I use. And it's just easier to have it in something oblong when you're scooping it out to make truffles. Now, if you didn't want to make truffles, you could just do just regular fudge and just put this in your dish and just cut it in squares. But we're going to be rolling these in a little bit of powdered sugar after we make our truffles, just to make them look really pretty. So just spread this out good. Now we got to let this cool down before we put it in the refrigerator to let it really harden up good to make truffles. So I'll let this cool off, and then I'm going to put a little bit of plastic wrap over the top and stick them in the fridge for probably 2 to 3 hours. Okay, it's good and cooled off at room temperature now, so I'm going to place a little bit of plastic wrap on top, and I'm just going to kind of push it down on the top of the fudge there mixture. Just kind of push it down, wrap it up good, and then I'm going to stick it in the refrigerator for 2 or 3 hours. Then we'll come back and make our truffles. Well, I let it sit in the refrigerator for about 2.5 hours. It's not the easiest thing to scoop out, but you have to understand, my hands are not real strong anymore. But you can scoop it out with your little melon baller or your little scoop. If you can check it maybe after an hour in the refrigerator, and it may be a little bit easier to scoop out. You might try that. But I mean, it's fine. It does scoop out, but you have to really dig in there and get it scooped out to make your truffles. And you just kind of roll it in this powdered sugar. And I sifted my powdered sugar because I didn't want a bunch of clumps in it. But I think this is supposed to make about 30 truffles. And I can tell you this stuff is really good because I've done tasted one. I love little truffles. I mean, it's pretty much just it's like making fudge, but it's just another way of eating it made into truffles. There's lots of recipes out there with different kind of truffles. I think it's just a fancy fudge. We make Oreo truffles at Christmas time. My daughter-in-law does. It has crushed up Oreos and cream cheese and stuff. And that's just another kind of truffle. But I do love dried cranberries and pistachios and white chocolate. So this is just all the good stuff. It's really easy to make. Nothing hard about it. And it's just something different for your Christmas candy list, maybe. If you've never made these, it's just something a little bit different. I love trying new things. And these do freeze well, so you can freeze these just like you do the Martha Washington candy. You can freeze those. I just layer it on wax paper in single layer in a container, and just freeze them. And they'll be good throughout the holidays for you. That way you can make your candies ahead of time. So I'm going to get the rest of these done, and then we're going to make us some really delicious apple cider caramel sauce. Don't that sound good? So let's get this wrapped up and get it done. Hey, let's make an apple cider caramel sauce. And this is so good over ice cream, bread pudding, a slice of apple cake, even a little bit over a piece of apple pie would be so good. But you can get, right now, pretty much at any grocery store, you can get you some apple cider. I love drinking this, just warming it up and drinking it. It's so good. And but this makes such a good caramel sauce. And all you're going to need is 2 cups of your apple cider. I'm just going to put this in my little saucepan, and I'm going to bring it to a simmer. Let it simmer on low until it reduces to about half. And then we'll continue with our recipe. Okay, so we wanted this to simmer and cook. It cooked down to about half, and we're pretty much there. So what you want to do is you want to add a whole cup of packed brown sugar. You want to add a half a cup of heavy cream. And 4 tablespoons of butter. Now, whether if it's salted or unsalted, I don't think it really matters. Salted caramel is pretty good stuff. Whoops. So what I'm going to do is let this come up to another good simmer. And I'm going to cook this till it starts to thicken up. It took about 8 minutes of a good hard simmer. You got to make sure that you let your apple cider reduce by at least half now. But now it's finally starting to thicken up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this cool down before I put it in my jar. So when it cools down, I put it in my jar, I'll put a lid on it, and I'll stick it in the refrigerator. I can just imagine how good this is going to be on so many different desserts, ice cream. I can just imagine it on top of some homemade apple dumplings. What do y'all think? Easy to make. Okay, I want to show y'all that the apple cider caramel sauce is done. It's still kind of warm though, but the stuff is so good, y'all. You could even give this as gifts too during Christmas time. I am going to put, once it cools off all the way, I will put a lid on it and put it in the refrigerator though. But I just got to thinking how many things you could use this with. You could put it over apple dumplings. You could put it over apple cake, a piece of apple bread. You could put it on top of a piece of apple pie. You can put it on top of ice cream. You could even put this in your coffee. You know, some people like to put like caramel drizzle and stuff in their coffee like me. When I make my iced coffees, I like to put a little bit of caramel drizzle in it. This apple cider caramel sauce would be absolutely delicious in it and just make you a really neat holiday coffee, wouldn't it? Just so many different things you could do with it. You've seen how easy it was, and it's absolutely one of the most delicious sauces I think I've ever ate. It'd be really so good on bread pudding or something like that. So it's a good thing. Y'all have got to try it. I'm just going to show y'all. If for some reason that it don't thicken up for you enough, you can put you a little bit of maybe cornstarch slurry or something like that in it just to thicken it up a little bit. It's really good though. So thank y'all for being with me here in my kitchen today for a couple of days while we made all this delicious candy and caramel sauce. It all turned out so good and so delicious, and I hope y'all add it to your list too. So God bless everybody. We'll see you in a few days.